Small Giants, Companies That Choose to Be Great Instead of Big, by Bo Burlingham. Picture this. You've built something amazing from scratch. It all started with just an idea and a recipe you whipped up in your mom's kitchen. You poured everything into it. Your heart, your savings, years of sleepless nights. And somehow, against the odds, it actually worked. Your company, Cliff Bar, is thriving. You're pulling in $39 million a year. Customers are obsessed with your product. Then, one day, the phone rings. It's the big players in the food industry, and they're coming after you. One massive conglomerate slides an offer across the table that sounds almost too good to be true. They want to buy your company for $120 million. Your half would be $60 million. Let that sink in for a second. $60 million. Never have to work again money. Buy an island money. The legal documents are ready. The suits are waiting in the conference room. This is supposed to be the dream, right? The moment every entrepreneur fantasizes about. The big exit. But as you stand there, pen in hand, something feels horribly off. Your hands won't stop shaking. Your chest tightens. Suddenly you can't catch your breath. The panic hits so hard, you have to excuse yourself and stumble outside for air. You walk around the block, tears streaming down your face, and that's when it hits you. This isn't a celebration, it's a funeral. You're about to kill the thing that gives your life meaning. So what do? Do you take the money and run? Or do you walk back into that room, send everyone packing, and bet everything on a completely different kind of dream? This moment captures the heart of Bo Burlingham's game-changing book, Small Giants. It takes on one of the most sacred assumptions in business, that you always have to grow bigger, that scale equals success. But what if that's not actually true? What if there's another path, one where you choose to be great instead of just massive? Over the next hour, we're diving into that alternative path. You'll meet founders who walked away from insane paydays, said no to franchising gold mines, and refused to go public, all because they had their own definition of winning. They wanted businesses with real soul, companies deeply woven into their communities, their customers' lives, and their employees' stories. Companies with this almost indefinable quality that the author calls mojo. By the time we're done today, you'll understand the secret to building a business that doesn't just print money, but actually matters. You'll see that sometimes the biggest wins in business and in life come not from saying yes to everything, but from having the guts to say no. Let's jump in by going back to that moment of choice, when you have to figure out what success really means to you. Every successful entrepreneur eventually hits this crossroads. It doesn't always come with a $120 million check attached, but the choice is the same. It's when the world tells you to scale up, move faster, and cash out. For Fritz Maytag, the guy who basically launched the craft beer revolution in America, that moment arrived in the early 90s. His company, Anchor Brewing, was a San Francisco institution. His Anchor steam beer was so popular, he literally couldn't brew it fast enough. Distributors were practically begging him for more. Restaurants were pleading. He even had to fly to Reno to personally turn down a huge order from the new MGM Grand Casino, because taking it would mean sacrificing quality. The pressure was crushing. The obvious move was to expand big time, raise serious capital, maybe go public, build a massive brewery. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Every business either grows or dies. He started exploring a public offering, but something didn't sit right. He and his leadership team spent hours talking, not about spreadsheets, but about life. What did they actually enjoy? What were their real goals? They realized they loved the company exactly as it was. They didn't want to take it to the moon. They valued the craftsmanship, the intimacy, the pride in what they were creating. Then Fritz had this revelation. He said, "I realized you could have a small, prestigious, profitable business and it would be all right. Like a restaurant. Just because it's the best around doesn't mean you have to franchise. You can stay as you are and have a business that's profitable and rewarding and a source of great pride." So they made a call. They chose not to grow. They chose to be great, right where they were. For Ari Weinzweig and Paul Saginaw, the founders of the legendary Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the turning point was less dramatic, but just as defining. It was 1992. The deli was crushing it. The New York Times was writing about them. People were raving about their sandwiches. But Paul was worried they were getting too comfortable. He feared competitors would start copying their formula. The obvious next move, the one everyone suggested, was to open Zingerman's locations in other cities. But Ari absolutely hated that idea. "I didn't want to spend my time flying to Kansas City to see some mediocre Zingermans," he explained. For him, the magic was in being part of something special and uniquely Ann Arbor. He told Paul flat out, "If that's what you want, maybe you should do it, but it's not something I want to be associated with. I'll leave." This disagreement could have blown up their entire partnership. Instead, it kicked off a 2-year conversation. They met regularly at a picnic table beside the deli, reading books, talking philosophy, trying to imagine a different future. What they came up with was brilliant. Instead of cloning the deli, they'd create a community of businesses, right there in Ann Arbor. A bakery, a creamery, a mail-order company, a training business, each its own entity, but all sharing the Zingerman's name, values, and obsession with quality. This approach let them grow without losing what made them special: their connection to the community, their closeness with customers, and the quality of their food. They figured out how to get bigger by staying small. These stories show the choice is real. But making it is one thing. Actually sticking to it? That's a whole different beast. Because the second you find some success, the world starts shoving you in directions you might not want to go. And the pressure comes from everywhere. Sometimes it's baked into your industry. Martin Babinek started TriNet with a simple dream. He wanted a small lifestyle business that would give him independence and control. What he ended up building was one of the fastest-growing companies in America. Why? Because he jumped into professional employer organizations, or PEOs. In that industry, size is everything. The bigger you are, the better the insurance rates and services you can offer clients. You can't have a cute little boutique PEO. To survive, you have to scale fast. Getting big required serious cash, and that's the first trap. To fund that growth, Babinek had to bring in outside investors. First, a small group of angel investors who saved him from going under. Then, a large European company that bought controlling interest. With each step, he gave up a little more of the freedom he craved. He was still CEO, but he wasn't a free agent anymore. He had a responsibility to his investors, and their main goal was growth. His dream of that small lifestyle business? Dead on arrival, killed by the industry he chose. Even if your industry doesn't demand massive scale, growth itself creates this insatiable hunger for cash. Fritz Maytag figured this out early. He explained it with a simple example. Say you sell 100 units of something and make $3 profit per unit. To grow by 10%, you need to make 10 more units. But what if each new unit requires a $2 upfront investment in equipment or materials? You'd need $20 to grow, but you've only got $3 in profit. You can't fund your own growth. You have to borrow money or sell a piece of your company. Every time you do that, you lose a bit more control. This is how tons of entrepreneurs lose their companies, by being too successful. But often the most intense pressure comes from the very people you're trying to serve, your employees and your customers. Great companies need great people, but great people are ambitious. They want challenges, opportunities to level up. If you don't create a path for them, they'll walk. Danny Meyer, the celebrated New York restaurateur behind Union Square Hospitality Group, dealt with this constantly. He knew that to keep his best talent, he had to create new opportunities. That's a big reason he kept opening more restaurants. He said, "I've chosen to surround myself with people who are eager to grow. They're ambitious. Part of my job is to be aware of people's aspirations and to harness them for the good." The desire to give his team a future became a powerful engine for growth. Then there are your customers. When you create something wonderful, people want more. Bill Butler started his construction company while living in a California commune. For years, the company didn't even have a listed phone number. But people loved his work. By 1989, he was doing $20 million a year and feeling completely underwater. He had projects in 5 states and couldn't keep up. Quality was slipping. Profits were vanishing. He knew he'd messed up by saying yes too much. So he and his team made a radical move. They gave up their licenses in other states. They slashed their client list from 25 down to 10, even firing their biggest client, who accounted for half their revenue because they were terrible to work with. But even then, the pressure didn't stop. Good clients, like Target, kept asking him to take on more work. Turning them down was, as he put it, very, very tough. Sometimes he'd recommend his best competitors for jobs, just to keep good clients happy. It goes against every entrepreneurial instinct to turn away business. Saying no takes a kind of discipline most people don't have. Finally, there's the sneakiest pressure of all, our own ego. Our culture worships bigness. It celebrates hypergrowth. We hear about Michael Dell and Mark Zuckerberg types, and we start feeling like we're falling behind. Jay Goltz, founder of Artists Frame Service in Chicago, called himself a recovering entrepreneuraholic. Forbes featured him as a biz kid in his 20s, and he spent the next 15 years trying to live up to the hype. He was obsessed with one goal: building a $100 million company. He couldn't even tell you why. It was just the number. That ambition nearly destroyed him. At 41, he hit rock bottom, out of cash, while launching a new home and garden store, and realized all that stress was self-imposed. He had an epiphany. He realized that people who build giant companies from scratch are wired differently. They have a stomach for risk he didn't have. And more importantly, he could be happy without it. He could have a great life, run a successful business, and make good money without losing his mind. One of his own employees opened his eyes. At her retirement party, a woman named Lily Booker stood up and thanked him. She'd been with another company for 10 years before it closed. In her 50s, she thought she'd never work again. "I just want to thank you for giving me a chance," she told him. In that moment, Goltz realized his success wasn't measured by a magazine ranking. It was measured in the lives he'd touched. He started seeing all the starfish in his company, people whose lives were better because his business existed. He realized he didn't need to be the biggest. He just needed to make a difference to the people right in front of him. So what happens when a company makes this choice? When it resists all the pressure and decides to focus on being great? It develops this special quality. An energy. A buzz. Burlingham calls it mojo. But where does mojo come from? It's not one thing. It's this combination of deep, genuine relationships the company cultivates. It starts with the place it calls home. Think about Righteous Babe Records, the music company founded by singer-songwriter Ani DeFranco. She could have set up shop anywhere, New York, L.A. But she chose to stay in her hometown of Buffalo, New York. At the time, Buffalo was struggling. It was the punchline of jokes. The economy was in rough shape. But Annie was fiercely loyal. She insisted on using local suppliers for everything. T-shirts, CDs, posters. She was responsible for creating over 100 jobs in a city that desperately needed them. Then she did something that became a symbol of hope for the whole city. There was this beautiful, historic church on Delaware Avenue, the Asbury, Delaware Methodist Church. It was falling apart. Stones were literally falling off the steeple. The city was going to tear it down. But Ani and her business partner, Scott Fisher, decided to buy it. They purchased the ruin and began the painstaking work of restoring it, turning it into their headquarters, a concert venue, and an art gallery. As the scaffolding went up, the people of Buffalo took notice. They saw someone from their own town, someone who could have left and never looked back, investing in their future. As one columnist wrote, there was a feeling of communal uplift to see it getting done. This is what Burlingham calls being rooted. Small giants are so intimately connected to their communities that you can't imagine them anywhere else. The company shapes the community, and the community shapes the company. It's like what the French call terroir in winemaking, the unique combination of soil, climate, and sun in a region that gives the wine its character. You can't replicate it. In the same way, a small giant draws its character from the spiritual terroir of its community. Zingerman's is a perfect reflection of Ann Arbor, quirky, intellectual, food-obsessed college town. That's why they debated for 2 years about opening a location at the Detroit airport, just 25 miles away. They were afraid of diluting that essential Ann Arbor connection. That deep-rootedness is their strength. It gives them identity, a sense of place, a soul. This intimacy extends beyond community to customers and suppliers. It's about building relationships that go deeper than transactions. The best example is Danny Meyer's concept of enlightened hospitality. Meyer realized early on that service and hospitality are different things. Service, he said, is technical. It's getting the order right, delivering hot food, cleaning up spills. You can train anyone to do that. Hospitality, on the other hand, is emotional. It's making people feel like you're on their side. There's this great story about a columnist having lunch at one of Meyer's restaurants, Tabla. She accidentally turned in her chair and slammed into a server, sending a tray of water glasses crashing to the floor. Staff instantly appeared, cleaning up, patting her down with napkins, bringing a complimentary bottle of champagne. That was excellent service. But then Meyer himself came to the table. "It was my fault," she said. He replied, "I'm sure it wasn't your fault." He knew it was her fault, but he was trying to relieve her guilt so she could enjoy her meal. That was hospitality. And it didn't end there. As she was leaving, the server who dropped the tray came over to apologize for his clumsiness. She insisted it was her fault, but he, like his boss, graciously took the blame himself. That experience is enlightened hospitality. It's genuine, personal connection. It's the feeling that people don't just want your business, they genuinely care about you. This commitment to personal connection shows up differently everywhere. Cliff Bar does it through grassroots marketing. Instead of dumping millions into TV ads, they sponsor thousands of local sporting events, giving them direct, face-to-face contact with people who use their products. They build emotional connections with consumers. City Storage, the record storage business, made their employees the heart of customer relationships. The founder, Norm Brodsky, and his wife Elaine trained every single employee, not just customer service reps, but warehouse workers, everyone, in customer service. They wanted prospects to feel welcome the second they walked in. The effect was immediate. One prospect after a tour told Brodsky, "Every one of your employees was smiling, and they all said hello. Because of that, in fact, I've decided to give you the business." But the deepest, most important relationship is the one a company has with its own people. This is the true source of a small giant's mojo. The companies in this book understand a fundamental truth: the customer comes second. That might sound crazy, but think about it. How can you expect employees to deliver enlightened hospitality or create amazing customer experiences if they don't feel valued and cared for themselves? You can't. The magic customers feel outside is a direct reflection of the magic employees feel inside. This is what Burlingham calls a culture of intimacy. It's a relationship so close that employees never doubt the company and its leaders care about them personally. Michelle Howard's story from ECKO, a manufacturer of backup alarms in Boise, Idaho, is powerful. She started at ECKO as a temp worker. She was 23, a single mom with 3 small kids. Her husband had just left. She had no marketable skills and was living on food stamps. It was, she said, the worst thing that ever happened to me. ECO gave her a chance, first as a temp, then full-time. When she was hesitant to move into a more challenging customer service role, her manager encouraged her. I think you can handle it. She struggled financially, and the company knew it. They let me take advances from my paycheck, she recalled. When her son got seriously ill, the head of HR brought food and flowers to her house. When she reflected on how she made it through that tough time, she said simply, God and ECCO. The company helped her get a loan for a house down payment, a place where each of her kids could finally have their own room. I never thought that would happen to me. Ever, she said. Her gratitude was enormous. ECCO cares about the people who work here, she said, and we care about each other. I want to help make this company as successful as it can be. That feeling, that deep emotional attachment, doesn't just happen, it's cultivated. It starts with a higher purpose, making work meaningful, reminding people what they do matters. At Zingerman's, it's enriching customers, lives with great food. At Anchor Brewing, it's mastering the art of beer making. It also involves showing people in unexpected ways how much the company cares. Norm Brodsky at City Storage had what he called his knock your socks off policy. When he learned his new executive assistant was working a second job cleaning offices at night to save for school, he didn't wait for her 6-month review. He called her in, gave her a raise equal to what she made at the second job, and told her she couldn't work there anymore because he needed her fresh and well-rested. Then he told her about the company's policy to pay for employees' schooling after 1 year. She was beaming. He had no doubt she knew the company cared about her. But creating this culture isn't just about being nice. It's about designing a world, a mini-society with its own rules and values. It's building a place where people want to live and work. Real Precision Manufacturing, a maker of hinges and clutches in Minnesota, took this further than almost any other company. The founders, 3 refugees from corporate giant 3M, wanted to create a business promoting harmony between work and family life. Their company was built on Judeo-Christian values and deep social responsibility. This wasn't just talk, they lived it. One day, an engineer named Joe Arnold was assigned to develop a hinge for a display box. He was excited about the technical challenge until he learned the end client was a cigarette manufacturer. The box would help sell cigarettes. Arnold had a crisis of conscience. He had 6 kids. He couldn't work on a project helping sell a product that kills people. In most companies, that's the end of the story. The manager says, "Fine, I'll give it to someone else." But not at Real. The company's culture was built on trust and open debate. Arnold took his concerns to the salesperson on the account, John Strom. Strom was under huge pressure to bring in new business. The company had been through a slump, and everyone had taken pay cuts. This contract was a big opportunity. They couldn't resolve it between themselves. They brought it to their larger group. Still couldn't agree. Finally, they took it to one of the co-CEOs, Bob Carlson. Carlson's response was remarkable. He listened, then said, "It'll be interesting to see how you guys figure this out." He didn't make the decision. He trusted his people to make it. In the end, the group's leaders decided to turn down the contract. They gave up significant business because one person felt it violated his conscience, and the company's process respected that. The key issue, as everyone said later, was trust. Not every small giant operates like Real. Jay Goltz, the recovering entrepreneuraholic, would probably roll his eyes at that story. His approach is more direct. "You know, life is unfair but merciful," he says. "Business is unmerciful but usually pretty fair." He believes a boss has to make demands. He has a strict policy on tardiness. 6 times late in a quarter, you're out. No excuses. And yet his company, the Goltz Group, inspires the same incredible loyalty. His production manager, Dale Zyman, once turned down a job offer from another company paying $10,000 more per year. He told Goltz, "You don't have to pay me more. I'm not going anywhere. I love it here. I hope to be here forever." Why? Because Goltz is a teacher. He's obsessed with quality and hates mediocrity. His factory walls are covered with his sayings. "One who sails by on excuses will drown in a sea of mediocrity." Or, "Our biggest competition is mediocrity." He's created systems for everything, from tracking daily production to avoiding framing mistakes. He empowers people within those systems. He's learned his biggest responsibility isn't screaming at people when they mess up, but letting them off the hook and using it as a teaching moment. He's created his own version of a perfect world, built on accountability, quality, and continuous learning. These stories are inspiring, but they carry a warning. Building a small giant isn't a guarantee of permanent success. In the 10 years after this book first came out, some profiled companies faced devastating challenges. Their stories reveal the crucial, non-negotiable financial principles that even the most purpose-driven companies must follow to survive. Real Precision Manufacturing, the company with the incredible culture, nearly went bankrupt. Their mistake? They abandoned their historical commitment to protecting gross margins. To avoid layoffs, core to their culture, they decided to chase market share in the low-margin, highly competitive laptop hinge business. They made price concessions to get volume. This decision set off a disastrous chain reaction. They invested millions in automation to handle volume, making them even more dependent on it. Price pressure from Asian competitors squeezed margins until they were losing money on every hinge. The company was plunged into a 6-year crisis that destroyed much of the trust and culture they'd spent decades building. They had to do 3 rounds of layoffs, the very thing they tried to avoid. They only survived because a new CEO, Kyle Smith, had the courage to make the painful decision to exit the commodity hinge business and refocus on high-margin, innovative products. He saved the company by returning to the principle they'd forgotten: protect your gross margins. Nick's Pizza and Pub, the beloved Chicago area restaurant with a cult following and employee turnover way below industry average, also nearly collapsed. The founder, Nick Cirillo, was a visionary with culture but financially illiterate. He financed expansion with massive debt without really understanding his balance sheet. By 2011, he owed about $3 million. Interest payments alone were crushing him. He was losing $30,000 a month and was weeks away from missing payroll. In a desperate last move, he sent an email to customers, taking full responsibility and asking for help. The community responded miraculously. Sales doubled overnight. The support bought him time to restructure debt and save the business. His story is a powerful lesson. Great culture can't save you from a bad balance sheet. The most tragic story is Rhythm & Hues, the Academy Award-winning visual effects company that created the stunning visuals for Life of Pi. It was beloved by employees. The founder, John Hughes, was passionate about taking care of his people, providing some of the best health benefits in the country. But the company had a broken business model. The visual effects industry was squeezed by major movie studios on one side, and government subsidies luring production away from Hollywood on the other. Companies were forced into fixed-bid contracts for projects with constantly changing scope. Margins were razor-thin or non-existent. For years, Hughes kept the company alive through sheer will and brilliant cash flow management, but in 2012, a series of project delays cost millions. He couldn't raise the capital he needed. In February 2013, just days before his team would accept an Academy Award for their work, he had to lay off over 250 people and file for bankruptcy. In a later interview, a tearful Hughes reflected on his choices. He tried to avoid layoffs because he knew it would destroy the culture. And, well, instead we're in bankruptcy, he said. So I ended up destroying Rhythm & Hues anyway. The lesson is stark. A company with mojo must also have sound financial structure. It must protect gross margins, maintain a healthy balance sheet, and operate with a viable business model. Without these, even the greatest culture won't save you. If a company navigates these challenges, it faces one final test: how to pass its magic to the next generation. How does a small giant outlive its founder? University National Bank and Trust in Palo Alto serves as a cautionary tale. In the 80s, it was the quintessential small giant. The founder, Carl Schmidt, built the bank on the heretical notion that limited growth beat fast growth. He created a fun, zany culture with extraordinary customer service. But in 1993, he had a heart attack and knew he had to think about retiring. He couldn't find a suitable successor sharing his unique vision, so he did what seemed responsible: sold the bank to a large corporation, Comerica. Just like that, The magic was gone, the bank was swallowed by a giant, and the unique culture that made it special disappeared. So how can it be done right? Fritz Maytag at Anchor Brewing showed one way. When he decided to sell, he was painstaking in finding a buyer. His requirements were clear. They had to be from San Francisco, committed to the brand's heritage, and have resources to grow without flipping it. It took 4 years, but he finally found the right partners. They've since grown the company dramatically, while staying deeply committed to its San Francisco roots and Maytag's values. Gary Erickson and Kit Crawford at Cliff Bar are taking a different approach. They know for the company to endure, it has to move from being, quote, entrepreneur-centric to vision-centric. They created 5 aspirations, sustaining the brands, the business, the people, the community, and the planet, serving as the company's constitution. They also sold 20% to employees through an ESOP, giving everyone a stake in protecting that vision. But perhaps the most evolved approach is happening at Zingerman's. After Paul Saginaw had a heart attack in 2009, he and Ari Weinsweig realized they had to figure out how to hold the community of businesses together after they were gone. They embarked on a multi-year project to reinvent governance. They created a path for employees to become owners, not just of individual businesses, but of the entire community. They're building a structure designed to outlast them, ensuring the magic they created can be passed down through generations of partners. Ultimately, all these stories come back to something Bernie Goldhirsch, founder of Inc. magazine, understood deeply. He saw entrepreneurs as artists, and business as their form of expression. He creates a business from nothing, just a blank canvas, he said. Somebody goes into a garage, has nothing but an idea, and out of the garage comes a company, a living company. It's so special what they do. They are a treasure. The leaders of Small Giants are artists. Their passion isn't just for what their company makes, but for the company itself. For Fritz Maytag, it was the art of brewing beer the traditional way, because it feels good. For Selima Stavola, the dressmaker who worked 59 years with only 1 employee, it was the art of making a client beautiful. My work is a joy to me, she said. I don't want it to become work. For Norm Brodsky, it was the art of seeing a boring industry like record storage in a completely new way. Their passion is their compass. It's what lets them navigate the temptations of growth and market pressures. They understand the business is simply the means to pursue their passion, not the other way around. And that's the secret. That's where mojo comes from. They've chosen to focus on creating something great and unique. Something that adds real value to the world. The financial success they achieve isn't the goal. It's a byproduct of their art. As we wrap up our journey through Small Giants, it's worth asking what the central message means for us today. In a world obsessed with unicorns, IPOs, and scaling at all costs, this book feels more relevant than ever. It's a quiet, powerful reminder that there's another way. The most profound lesson for me is the redefinition of success. The leaders in this book didn't stumble into greatness, they chose it. They made a conscious, often difficult decision to prioritize purpose over profit, quality over quantity, and relationships over transactions. They understood that the business scoreboard isn't just about revenue and market share. It's about the quality of lives you touch, your employees, your customers, the people in your community. This isn't a soft idea. As the failure stories show, being a small giant requires immense financial discipline. You have to be better at business, not worse. You have to understand your numbers inside out, because you don't have the cushion of venture capital or public markets to save you. You have to build a company that's fundamentally healthy, from balance sheet to soul. So how can you apply these ideas right now in your own life or projects? First, take a moment to define what great means to you. Forget what the world tells you to want. What kind of impact do you truly want to have? What kind of relationships do you want to build? Write it down. Make it your North Star. This single act of clarity can be the compass guiding you through all the difficult choices ahead. Second, pick one relationship and decide to make it more intimate. It could be with a customer. Instead of just a transaction, how can you make them feel genuinely cared for? It could be with an employee. What's one unexpected thing you can do this week to show them you see them as a whole person, not just a worker? It could be with your community. Is there one small local cause you can support? Not for PR, but simply because it's right? Mojo is built one relationship at a time. Finally, embrace the idea of business as craft, as art. Whatever you do, fall in love with the process of doing it exceptionally well. Find beauty in your work, whether you're writing code, making sandwiches, or storing boxes. That passion is contagious. It's what attracts the right people and inspires them to join you in building something that truly matters. That was a summary of Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. We've explored the core principles and most powerful stories from the book today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a photograph of a great meal. You can see what it looks like, but you can't taste it. The real magic of this book is in the details, in the texture of the stories, and in the quiet moments of reflection it inspires. This summary gives you a framework to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If any of the ideas we've discussed, choosing greatness over bigness, building a company with soul, finding the mojo, have sparked something in you, then I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning business principles. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you think about work, success, and what it means to lead a fulfilling life. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you something to think about, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know these journeys are worthwhile, and it ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.